accounting, or the auditor take note so that they are solved as such. But for those that needs updated documentations, so that we can solve them now, rather address them now, because solving we'll do the resolution in our reports. But make sure that in the next 14 days you harmonize all those areas with the auditor. The issues that are lying unaddressed in those particular audit queries. So with that, in the climate change fund for the year ended 30th June 2024, I want us just to look at one audit query substantially, and that will be the audit query on failure to allocate funds to the wards. That is under reports of unlawfulness and effectiveness in the use of resources. Auditor, do you want to read for us that query?
Thank you, Chair. The issue on failure to allocate funds to the wards. Audit review revealed that there was no evidence that the fund administrator developed, published, and circulated information on the disbursements of funds available to each ward. Further, there was no evidence that there were any disbursements of the funds to the wards, contrary to Section 20 of the Trans-Nzoia County Climate Change Fund Act 2021, which requires that the fund administrator shall develop, publish, and circulate information on the disbursements of funds available to each ward, which shall be approved by the County Planning Committee, and disbursement of funds shall be based on cash flow projections submitted by implementers of the activities financed by the fund. In the circumstances, management was in breach of the law. Thank you, Chair.
Governor, response?
Our management response, Chair, is as follows. There was adequate planning of disbursement to the wards as per the approved work plan for the financial year 2023-2024. However, this was not realized due to late disbursement of funds from donors. We have Appendix 12 is attached, the approved work plan for the said financial year 2023-2024. Appendix 13, the funds allocation criteria. Appendix number is that 14, Ward Climate Change Planning Committee meeting attendance register. Appendix 15, report on dissemination of funds disbursement towards. Appendix 16, Ward Climate Change Planning Committee minutes for the meetings held. And lastly, Appendix 17, local fund disbursement schedules. So the main issue here, Mr. Chairman, is that we're not able to disburse the funds because the funds were not there. They had not been received.
Auditor, what is your take on that response?
Chair, the management has not been able to show evidence of the disbursements to the ward during the year 2023-2024.
But what do you need as the auditor to be able to address this? What kind of documentation would satisfy this, given the the act from the assembly?
Chair, what we intend to do is review the 2024-2025 allocations to the wards, because for the year 2023-2024, the disbursements were done late in June 2024 and in July 2025. So the activities of the fund were carried out during the current financial year. Yes.
So you want to see whether the management disbursed funds within 2024-2025.
Yeah.
That's well put. Governor, are you getting the concern here? The auditor? Yes, because you've indicated that there was late disbursement in the previous year.
The one that we're talking about 23, 23, 24.
Yes.
But we since received the funds actually after the financial year, and I think we've disbursed the funds for 2024, 2025. Now the year is under audit.
Auditor?
Thank you, Chair. That is the correct position. We are currently reviewing the audit of 2024-2025. So the auditors are on the ground. So they will be reviewing what the activities of the fund for the 2024-2025. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, but so because governor is under oath, perhaps I'll let the senators interrogate whether there's actually evidential, indication that these funds have been, because we take this issue of the awards very seriously. Senator Chimera, I see you have got something to say.
Thank you, Chair. I just I take with a lot of concern the verdict from the AG's office. And the words is that there was no evidence that there were any disbursements of these funds to the wards. Is that still your position as you sit now, or this evidence was finally availed to you and you're satisfied that these funds, whether they came late, actually reached the intended persons or the intended wards?
And maybe to add on what Senator Chimera has said, actually the auditor used two very also said the
funds were dispersed late, some in June and then some in July. I wanted to find out then from arrived late and they are not able to disperse to the ward in the next financial year, which is the last financial year, the daily vote, the daily budget, so that basically it means nothing was spent in this prior year, and they have rebudgeted to spend on the last financial year that ended in June. So I just wanted to understand so that we know that it means 0% on the budget was spent, and then now we are spending the total budget on this last financial year. So that, these are similar issues. If the county executive is in breach of the law and they didn't receive the funds, what happens?
And Chair, if the county government received money is late, and there's no actual spending by way of disbursing the same to the ward funds, then you see you cannot say there's no evidence that this money was not disbursed, because these words, no evidence and expenditure, is what is riling up the committee auditors. So please explain to us clearly so that we know who is at fault here. We're not saying it is you, but then again, if funds come in late, how do we treat these funds? Does the governor have to just send to the ward funds because the law complies and asks him to send the money to the ward funds? Or the governor can wait and realize evidence to spend this money?
Auditor, it's about just clarity. I think so you can help just the members to understand a little bit more.
Mr. Chairman, before the auditor comes in,
Just wait, because I want to make sure that there is harmony between the auditor and the members, just in terms of understanding.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, we have received the information that the funds were actually disbursed in the current financial year 2024-2025, and as we go to the ground, we shall use this list and also check on the activities that were, if it is, they are climate change related. So if it was tree planting, our officers will be going and checking whether there are trees which were planted, or tree nurseries, or if, I don't know, what other activities are involved in the FLOCA fund. So that's one thing. The other issue is that as at the point of the audit, the county had 373, was it 371 million? They had received 371 million, which they had not disbursed. And what was remaining was their portion. It's called co-funding. So, yes, they had received money from World Bank, but they had not fully funded their portion. That is the fact. So we say, yes, there was a breach in the law. However, it is correctable. We will be checking in the current year whether those activities that should have been undertaken then, together with the activities for this year. So we shall be checking 2-year activities to see whether they have been able to undertake those activities. Thank you, Chair.
Governor, perhaps for the comfort of the committee, could you share with us what was the anticipated amount from the financing partner that delayed, and then to the comfort of the committee, what was the responsibility on the county executive of from your side to the same fund, so that we understand just the entire amount that was involved, and whether now that amount has all been disbursed in this current financial year. What is the rough estimate that each ward was supposed to get? Then the last question would be, what is in this financial year, is there the same anticipation of the same funds, or is there a different amount that is anticipated from the same donor? And your executive's contribution, what is it in, because they are saying that they're going to be looking at the two activities. So just get us into those details on the funds that were anticipated, what each one were expecting, and which one delayed, I mean, to the extent that if your contribution did not delay, I think the 371 million that Auditor is referring to was a contribution from the county government. Is it, Auditor? Is that true, Auditor?
Oh, that was from the donor.
From the donor?
Yeah.
And that one was already received by the time of audit?
Yes.
Yeah, so it was to the other, to all the wards.
The issue here is that we had budgeted for these funds, and therefore prepared the work schedule for these funds. That's what the auditors saw when they came for audit. The problem is that we did not have the money, where the money was coming from the donor. We received the money after the closure of the financial year. Actually, after 31st of November, of May.
How much was the money?
You cannot make any. Are they supposed to be told that 4 million? How much? Donor. So that 4 million from the World Bank. 113. So, Chairman, if you look at our report on page 39, all the way to 39. Sorry. From page 115, all the way to the last page, it shows the disbursements. As per that schedule, we are waiting for the funds. The funds have since been disbursed. So it means for the auditors now to come and confirm, they are on the ground to confirm that indeed these funds have been disbursed. But we have a record here on how we disbursed these funds when we received them.
I think that's very straightforward, because even if we belabor on this, the only time we can be able to fully confirm this is in the next audit cycle.
Yes.
I think that's how this happens, right? So we will keep it under review, and then in the next audit cycle, please, clerk, take note that this would be a substantive query that will be able to harmonize with what the governor has given today. So in that case, we proceed to the next fund. I wanted to check on the Nawiri fund. So the Nawiri fund, auditor, I think because we had canvassed around the issues of unsupported depreciation and amortization expenses, inaccuracies, basically all the accounting issues we are canvassed on. So, Governor, on this particular report, what will be our query? Number one would be again on lawful, report on lawfulness and effectiveness in the use of resources. And on this, we will look into query number one on that, which is lack of an insurance policy for the loans disbursed. And then we will also look at the query on an approved internal borrowing. It was partially addressed, but we just comment on that. I just want your comment on that, Governor. We won't read that particular one. And then we will look into long outstanding unaccounted interest. I think then the last one, we will look at long outstanding receivables from exchange transactions. Is that okay, members?
Yes.
So let's start with lack of an insurance policy for the loans that were disbursed in this fund. Auditor, take it on. That will be the query. If you look under report on lawfulness and effectiveness in the use of resources, it's the first query under that. Auditor.
A lack of an insurance policy for the loans disbursed. The statement of financial position reflects current portion of long-term receivables from exchange transactions balance of Kenya shillings 52,789,305. The balance includes an amount of Kenya shillings 49,224,184 relating to loans disbursed on 17th May 2024. However, management did not secure an insurance policy for the loans. This was contrary to Section 10, subsection 1 of the Trans Nzoia County Nawiri Fund Account 2015, which states that the board shall have all the powers necessary for the functions and proper performance of its functions under this Act, and subsection 2H further states that without prejudice to the generality of the provisions of subsection 1, the board shall have authority to take out insurance cover for risky loans such as death, incapacity, or inability to pay, as the board deems fit. In the circumstances, management was in breach of the law. Thank you, Chair.
Could I request, because I'm trying to make sure that we're using our time efficiently, could I request that you further read the long outstanding receivables from exchange transactions? Because when I read that query, I realized that actually they are related. They are actually related with this particular query. So then Governor will respond to the two of them together.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Long outstanding receivables from exchange transactions. The statement of financial position reflects portion of long-term receivables from exchange transactions balance of Kenya shillings 3,984,646 as disclosed in Note 7 to the financial statements. The balance includes an amount of Kenya shillings 160,000 disbursed between 2016 and 2018 to 3 youth and women groups in the county. However, more than 6 years after the loans were disbursed, the groups have not repaid any amounts towards principal and interest. The management has not provided measures it has put in place to recover the outstanding loans. In the circumstances, the effectiveness of the controls and management of the recovery of disbursed loans could not be confirmed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Governor, your responses to those two queries?
Mr. Chairman, you realize that query number 7 is talking about 2016 to 2018, very many years ago before he came into office. We've learned our lessons, and that's why we've really improved the management of.
Governor, I wanted you to read your responses
So I think the first one.
respectively. Yeah, the first one, then the second one, then you can be free to make a comment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on lack of insurance policy, the management response is as follows, Mr. Chairman. For the reference period, the Trans-Nzoia County Nawiri Fund Board did not consider loans issued out through Nawiri Fund as risky, and therefore resolved not to insure. Following the prior year's experiences, Nawiri program was redesigned to mitigate the inherent risk of default by loanees through the adoption of a loaning strategy that is tied to LPO/LSO financing, which is linked by the bank and IFMIS system to facilitate automatic recovery of loan amounts. However, the board, to conform with the law, the board intends to ensure that all future loans issued are insured in accordance with the provisions of the Act. We've put an Appendix 3, which is an extract of the minutes of the board discussing the issue of the loan. And of course, Appendix 4, which is a design of the loan agreement 4. So, Mr. Chairman, the remarks I wanted to add.
Next, read
The next one.
the next one, then you can make the comments together. They are very related.
On the loan outstanding receivables from the exchequer, from exchange transactions, the management response is as follows. The fund confirms the details of the outstanding receivables in table 1. Number 1, bus park, 8,000. 2, Umak Cottage Industries, 23,500. Romish Electricals, 30,000. Number 4, Simili Mabonga Gumbei, 20,000. 5, Violet Nanjala, 40,000. 6, Mary Namweya Wakoli, 5,000. Wilkesa Nekesa, number 7, 5,000. Beatrice Hasandi, number 8, 5,000. Daniel Legosi, number 9, 5,000. Lilian Musheti, number 10, 13,000. And Patrick Wanyomi, number 11, 5,500. Total, 160,000. There have been attempts to recover these loans, but the count has not been successful. Therefore, we have now embarked on the process of having these debts written off through a process that will culminate in a final approval in the county assembly. We have attached Appendix 11, which are demand letters issued out to defaulters, and Appendix number 12, the request to write off the debts that have been outstanding for too long.
So go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, what we've developed as a strategy in Trans-Nzoia is that there is this 30% uphold that has not been working very well because the people who are targeted do not have capital to do business with the county governments. So using Nawiri, we've developed a strategy where groups who qualify under ACUP arrangement, once they are given an LSO, they benefit from this fund, the Nawiri fund. We give them sufficient funds to execute the tender. They are paid through the same account, and we are able to deduct our funds. So there's very little room for default. It's almost foolproof. Actually, for the first financial year, there was no default. We are looking at now the current financial year, see if they're going to be in default. It's almost foolproof. And we're also giving to to groups. So if one member of a group dies, like is stated here, to cover those risks, death, incapacity, inability to pay, really, we really sorted them out. Previously, of course, we'll give money to individuals, and they'll just disappear. Or you give them to the groups, they default. But when you attempt to recover this money, especially around election time, actually the main defaults were around 2017. When people are told those were government funds, do not pay. Or an open start up and say, if I'm elected governor, I'll ensure that you don't pay. So people did not pay. And that's why we went to this other way. We give you money and we give you a tender. So the chances of default are almost zero. They're very, very minimal.
Auditor, your take on that response?
Thank you, Chair. I find it quite innovative, the issue of LSO, LPO financing, especially for the AGPO. What we shall be doing in the current financial year is to find out of the 48, or is it 49 million issued towards in May last year, our auditors who are on the ground are checking whether there are any defaults, whether there has been 100% recovery. Then if we find the defaults, then we might insist on, again, on the issue of insurance being at a ticket, which was already in the policy. So probably then they also need to change the policy to remove the issue of insurance. Thank you, Chair.
Senators, any comment, any take?
Chair.
Rachimera?
Chair, I listened to Governor Natembeya speaking on a WE refund for the second time, I think. The first time I heard him was in another committee, cohesion, and he spoke so passionately about this fund. I actually thought this was your idea. I didn't know you actually found it in office. My question, Governor, is I'm looking at the demand letters that have been done to those people who've been defaulting. They are fairly recent, 18th May 2023, I think all of them bear the same date. But then again, these monies that were advanced to these people happened sometime in 2016. I don't think you are governor then. And I'm concerned that the figures that you are demanding from these people, most of them is 5,000, 5,000, 5,000. I think the highest I've seen is 40,000 shillings. This to me already would be a concern, because I'm trying to imagine which LPO or LSO would attract financing of 5,000 or 40,000 shillings. So perhaps, Governor, in your administration now, this is a bit historical. How have you tied the rollout of this loan? Is it that somebody applies and it is specifically tied to that particular tender has been given? Because I can imagine giving someone 5,000 was just as good as giving a token to go and drink busa somewhere in Kitale and not to do a tender. So then in your current administration, do you give this fund paid on an actual LPO, an LCO? Are there safeguards? Are you doing a joint escrow account perhaps? Are you paying suppliers directly? So when you recall what is your interest and what the young man who is the tenderpreneur is left with goes to him. We just want to see the safeguards of these funds so that we don't end up writing many demand letters and ordinarily they will never pay, because to them this is political financing. They will say this is our money, we are not paying. And there's nothing much you can do to them. Thank you, Chair.
Very well. Any other senator? If none, what the governor has explained is very innovative. So maybe the OIG, and if this one works, maybe it is something that you can also sell the idea across the Council of Governors, because basically it's like you are giving your constituents a loan to do work, which is basically a soft loan. So if it works, then you can roll it over, because what I know generally, when you give money to groups and youth, even the youth fund and the women enterprise fund, they don't pay generally. It's just like the ASLA fund. So, but if you, it's like an incentive, you are giving them to work, and this is what the governor told us when we were in Kitale, that he was going to ensure that they get contracts, and and then you deduct automatically. So
Okay.
it's a good way of helping your people.
Okay. Any other senator, we proceed? I think we proceed, Governor.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Senator Chimera. When you look at 5,000, 10,000, really, it was a joke. Because if the government, you give somebody 5,000, they'll just go to the nearest hotel, eat chicken, and go home. And even the amount of money you'll spend chasing 5,000, not will be more. And that's why we changed the entire strategy. We're now giving a minimum of 250,000. And it's based on the procurement plan. Every department will have a procurement plan for their 30% ACPO. That's where the money is derived from. This is true empowerment. And indeed, Nawiri was not my innovation. I found it a good idea. And for me, I don't suffer insecurities that you go to a country, your colleague started a project, and you don't complete it because you think they're going to take political credit for it. If it's a good idea, we just made it better. And I believe it's going to change the lives of our people. The main objective for this, what informed our decision to embrace this, was that you look at people who are doing contracts with governments. You'll find one individual doing very many jobs with different companies, but just one individual. But you look at our people, they don't know how to do business with the county government. They've got no idea. They think it's a very complicated thing. And that's why we are saying we are going to give this Nawiri funds to groups, not to individuals. And those groups are used as avenues for training, how to do tenders. So you do one, and when they come to the office, they don't just send the chairman or the official, they come. If they're a group of 20, you all come, and you are taken through the process of procurement. So that the following year, when you have capital, you don't have to come as a group, because you know how we're going to do this work. You understand how to do business with that was the essence, and that was the objective, other than, of course, empowerment.
Okay. Just for the clarity for me, because any meeting that we go through here, we actually do document and we follow up on anything that we say. If you give recommendations, we will take the recommendation seriously. If we don't give you, we will also take it seriously. In our meeting with you on 30th November 2023, you indicated here that there was a Trans Nzoia Catalyst Youth and Tanzania County Youth and Women Development Fund, if you remember, and you had a very big challenge with that fund. Just for the clarity of this committee, is it the same fund? And what is the status of that one?
The Youth and Women Fund is not operational.
Not operational, or it was dissolved? These are two different things.
It's a process, Mr. Chairman.
Because there is a winding up process that is duly by law. And because I'm seeing this Nawiri thing, or fund, doing the same thing, right?
The process of winding up the Youth Women Fund is underway. People don't just do things because you are doing, don't even check that for any impact. And focusing on this act of financing.
What is the status like? Does it still have staffing? Does it still have some budget line? I want to, because in this meeting, remember, Governor, I interrogated it personally, and you really were like, this is a troublesome fund, I just want it gone. So I want to deliver a statement, because the way you're expressing on this Nawiri, it seems like it is a replacement, or technically it is an elevated and a well-run fund than the previous one, and they're doing the same thing. So I just want to be sure that in terms of fiduciary responsibility, you're dealing with that fund properly.
Mr. Chairman, from my words when I appear here on the debts you said, I said we are winding up these funds. We have not allocated the funds in a budget. And normally these funds are actually just run by a majority of the public officials. So we are focused more on Nawiri and Youth and Women Fund. They were running concurrently at that time, and both of them were failing. So we focused on the Nawiri Fund, have refunded it, and really we think it's going to be a game changer.
When are you concluding on that winding up?
When we come here next time, because I need to be raised here now, we come with a report on
Okay.
the winding up status.
Okay.
The youth fund and the women fund.
I just want to be sure that that one is dealt with, so that there's no wastage of funds. Then the last thing I wanted to ask you, LPO financing. We are in the same country. We understand how business works in this country. You do business with county government, especially county government. There is delayed payments. In fact, if there's somewhere else inordinate delays payment, is county government's payment. Doesn't this pose a risk to this particular fund? Because we've seen some NPOs delays goes to 2-3 years without being paid or being cleared by county government. How do you deal with this in terms of a substitute for insurance? And apart from that, do you only finance, if you think about invoice financing, do you only finance groups that are doing business with the county government of Trans Nzoia, or do you allow them to do business with any other entity? For that, and then how do you de-risk that capital?
I'll start with the last question. We only fund groups
to be a young person in Trans Nzoia, of course, because there's no problem for me.
Yes.
But remember, this is for you as a county that's running this fund. So, for instance, where there is an ordinate delay of exchequer releases to you, there is an impact on the interest on those loans. So, how do you deal with that? Do you reconcile that? Is there a policy measure to make sure that if it's an internal delay or an exchequer delay, then you massage the interest a little, or how do you approach that?
The interest actually we pay interest to the bank. It's at the 3%, and that is it. Yeah. So it can take for as long as the exchequer releases take. It will not have impact on what eventually the groups are.
It's a flat rate.
It doesn't go. It's not compounded. It doesn't increase. Just that.
Sufficient, adequate. I think in that case, then we can proceed to the next query under the same fund, which is long outstanding and accountable interest. Auditor.
Thank you, Chair. Long outstanding and accounted interest. The statement of financial position reflects current portion of long-term receivables from exchange transactions balance of Kenya shillings 3,984,646 as disclosed in Note 7 to the financial statements. The balance includes temporary interest amounting to Kenya shillings 2,900,000 issued on 8th July 2015 to 2 officers attached to the Department of Finance in the Trans Nzoia County Government. No explanation was provided for failure to recover the interest 8 years since they were issued. This was contrary to Regulation 93(5) of the Public Finance Management County Governments Regulations 2015, which stipulates that a holder of a temporary interest shall account or surrender the interest within 7 days, working days after returning to the duty station. In the circumstances, management was in breach of the law. Thank you, Chair.
Management response.
Mr. Chairman, our management response as follows. The fund regrettably acknowledges the long outstanding and accounted for interest and has commenced the process of recovery. Appendix 8 letter to the county attorney to follow up on the matter. So on page 39 and appendix 9, demand letters by the county attorney. Mr. Chairman, just to add that this impress were taken in 2015. That time I was a district commissioner. I was not governor. But we've done some basic check. This money was actually borrowed by the county minister that time and the deputy governor. The money was borrowed, they were traveling outside the country. This money was supposed to be returned, not a part of matter of documentation that you are surrendering interest. Because I think they came back, they processed the interest and went away with the money. Basically, it was like double funding. So now that thing has come to my knowledge, we are going to make a follow-up. Because the argument has been that we submitted documents, but somehow they got misplaced. I'm wondering what these documents were, because they were supposed to return hard cash. After collecting the interest, they were supposed to return money to the fund. They did not do that. The deputy governor is alive and well, in Cherengani, and the other officer is actually at the treasury currently. So we should be able to get them very soon.
The auditor, what do you take of that response?
Chair, I see the letters three months ago, so probably by now there should have been some progress on their responses on the same. But yes, it's a good effort to start following up on this amount. Thank you, Chair.
Senators?
Maybe the one for Tarusi. You can, the county attorney can start suing him.
And people will be saying this money was given when Natembeya was a governor, and Natembeya will be too senior to each. So what have you done so that this one does not recur? And maybe your name when you're up there is not soiled.
Up there means the presidency.
Is Mbugua paid to campaign for you here?
There's a lot of airtime here.
Why is the chairman not so happy?
Continue, Governor.
Of course, the chairman just exercise that fiscal. And of course, officers who facilitate this kind of borrowing, again, should be held personally liable. Like an imprisonment, you travel to come back, you should return. Why should it take 6 years for you? There's somebody who's supposed to ensure that that money is paid. That if you don't pay, then somebody must make you pay. You should not wait for 6 years. So yes, a matter of ensuring that we follow procedures.
This is a pretty straightforward issue. If it was under your purview, I would have had a different conversation. But because it happened when you're not there, let me just direct that, give it a timeline. Put closures to some of these issues. So I'll give you 60 days, members, if you allow. We give you 60 days, close on this. If it is becoming inordinately difficult for you to deal with it, this committee sits under Article 125 of the Constitution, which means we can summon anybody who has served or who is currently serving under your government to be able to give evidence or to be able to deal with these issues. So if you cannot solve it in 60 days, get back to us and then we will be able to summon these individuals to deal with them. What I would just call bad loans, the ones that Chimera was talking about, people are being used to perhaps eat mandazi. I wouldn't say Bursary because I don't have any evidence, but I think mandazi is popular in that area. So those ones, again, do closures. If in your best understanding and the data you have used, these are just bad loans that need to be written off, use the due process of law to be able to write them off in the next 60 days. And perhaps reach out to the committee for any kind of help together with the auditors to help you how you structure those write-offs. But we don't want to see them recurring as previous year matters every single time as an audit query. So just be able to do the closures. Mark Gasanja?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just want to bring to the attention of the committee Regulation 93(6) of the PFM, which requires that any delayed interest be recovered with interest.
Yeah, so even as you do the closure, do it with the due process of law. That means that use all the tenets of law with all the requirements of law, including the issue of interest. So you have to tabulate that and to be able to put it on to these individuals that they have to pay plus those interest. Okay, very well. Then I would say that we are done with that particular fund and invite us to now look at the Trans Nzoia County Executive Car Loan and Mortgage Scheme Fund for the year ended 30th June 2024. Governor, I'll give you 1 minute so that your staff can be able to interchange.
Yeah, some can leave that, others can come.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
All right, I think I'm seeing the new faces.
So, Governor, I would invite you to perhaps do allow any officer from your side who might not have introduced themselves to introduce themselves. And in that same manner, I wanted to ask Clerk that because we're going to now heavier reports here, just make sure that the governor has got his sugar levels maintained.
be courteous to offer governor some tea. Just so that it maintains its sugar levels. Governor, please go ahead and allow your officers to introduce themselves. The new team, please introduce yourselves, the CECs, chief officers.
Good afternoon. My name is Jedros Nasmi Utama, the CEC Education. Good afternoon. My name is CPA Chebet. I'm the accountant, mortgage, sorry.
Good afternoon. My name is Ashton Mulupi, Chief of Economic Planning.
Good afternoon. I'm CPA Edwin Tiboy, Accountant Education.
Good afternoon. My name is Eli Pilsoti, Acting Director, Education and Vocational Training.
Very well. Governor, I think then we can proceed. Auditor, you can take us through these queries. And I wanted, because of time, I want to look at the ones that I feel like were weighty and members also conversed on them in the pre-meeting. To be weighty issues to explore. So, Governor, the first query will look under the Trans Nzoia County Executive Car Loan and Mortgage Scheme Fund for the year ended 30th June 2024. The first audit query will be unsupported loan disbursements. So take note of that. And then we will also look at the unsupported current receivables. And then we will go into the budgetary control and performance as the next query. And then under report on lawfulness and effectiveness in the use of public resources, we will look at two queries, which is unsecured loans and defaulted loan repayments. And please already take note that when we get to those two, you will read them together so that Governor can respond to them together. And then, Auditor, there is a query that you brought here which was not addressed on the report on internal controls and governance issues, effectiveness in implementation of audit recommendation, which I think that has been passed by event. So I'll mark that as resolved. So let's all take note. We won't look into that query. The unsecured loans and defaulted loan and repayments. So let's take it on and start with unsupported loan disbursements.
Thank you, Chair.
That will be query number 2.
Thank you, Chair. Unsupported loan disbursements. Review of documents revealed that the fund disbursed a total of Kenya shillings 30,730,000 to 6 members of the county executive. However, the loan application forms, securities of the loans, and the minutes of the approving committee were not provided for audit review. In the circumstances, the accuracy and the completeness of loan disbursements amounting to Kenya shillings 30,730,000 could not be confirmed. Thank you, Chair.
Governor, your written response.
Mr. Chairman, our response as follows. The fund administrator confirms that the loan applicants have been contacted to give securities of the loans taken. Loan application forms and the minutes of the approving committees have been availed for audit. Appendix 2A, loan application form, it's on page 7. B, committee minutes. C, that's appendix C, loan disbursement schedule. Then number D, correspondence on the security of loans.
Auditor.
Thank you, Chair. I think the major there's a risk, or the funds are at risk, based on the first point, that the loan applicants have been contacted to give securities of the loans taken. Ordinarily, for the other schemes, is that the properties, either a house or a car loan, a car is jointly registered, so that to avoid a person either disposing of the property without the knowledge of the employer. Thank you, Chair.
Senators? Senator Kisang.
Chair, what on the query, the original query was unsupported loan disbursements, which basically all of it has been attached here. But what has come out as a result of the response they have given, they've talked about securities. So it means basically these are people who were given loans if they took out house loans or land. And Chair, if you check on the list, there are 1, 2, 3. So I don't know if these 6, the 4 who have been sacked, if they are among these ones, and if they have not provided the securities, what happens?
Which are presented to you. I don't know, some of your staff maybe are not serious. I'm looking at page 30, on the total rooms applications in order. Is it true that your deputy governor applied for a mortgage of 15,000?
Million.
This is 1,000. Is it million? But can you? His Excellency Governor Philomena mortgage loan of 15,000.
15,000.
It's a typo. Is it a typo? So then the totals are different. If one person got 15 million,
it's not the same as what is even there.
yes?
It's a different query. I think this is a different query.
I think that's something that you've noted. Okay, we can take it on at another query, but I think that the one that
Governor, kindly give us a better response.
Mr. Chairman,
so just wait. Let's wait if the senior senator with anything, then you can
clarify something so it can assist a bit. The substantive question on secured loans on page 39 on unsecured loans. Is query number.
No, this query is about unsupported.
Yes.
So basically, it's a procedural issue.
Yes.
On how the loans were disbursed.
Yes.
I want us to be on the same page. You give a loan procedurally after getting all supported documentations to it. The law requires that part of the documentation that merits qualification of this loan includes the securities that are indicated here. That's the query. So why was the securities bypassed? I think that's what Senator Tobiko is asking if I was to make it very clear. It's right. Maybe we need to combine the two.
No, the other ones, I think the other ones are different.
Then
This is a procedural issue. These are an issue of, you have got a procedure to follow before you execute on the loan, and then you just bypass that procedure. That's the query here. That I think Senator Tobuka has gotten it right. So the question, Governor, is why were the procedures bypassed to the extent that the loans were issued without the securitization?
The audit has flagged out various issues. Those you are saying are preliminary issues before you issue out a loan. And we're just confirming that these forms were available. The loan application forms, the procedural one, committee minutes, and the loan disbursement schedule. They were provided. And these appendices actually indicate that indeed everybody who applies for this fund must fill these forms. They're there. You look at the first paragraph of the query, that's what we are responding to. That's why I was requesting that when it comes to securities, we look at a separate issue because it's a separate audit query under query number 6, specifically for securitization.
Chair. I don't know whether Senator Shimera, is your fund administrator present before this committee? The fund administrator? The lady is the CS. Is the fund administrator here?
Is here?
Oh, he's here? Yes. Because, Governor, sometimes these are things that really happen and you don't even know unless they really brief you on everything. And it's actually an administrative issue. Can the fund manager confirm that number one, loans were disbursed without security, and number two, if that is a policy within the fund, or it was an oversight on your part, and what are you doing to rectify the same?
Or a deliberate omission.
Because, Governor, you will realize these people who are applying for these loans, today they are public servants, tomorrow you decide to fire them, they are gone. I hate to say it because I'm in court literally in some county chasing for these funds. Somebody was a chief officer in some county, took a mortgage, and there was no security. Now he's been fired. We have to recover that money. And the court is telling me, but you didn't secure these funds. So anything can happen, Governor, and we don't want to be in that particular position as well. So the fund manager, can you confirm whether it's a policy on your part that you can quickly disburse funds and loans to your seniors, if it's the DG involved, if it's the governor himself, or CECs, or it was just an order on a part, or it was deliberate? And what are you doing to rectify this position before we even address the issue of unsecured loans?
You know, I come from a finance background, and I like simplifying things. Senator Chimera is asking a very simple question. Is the 30,730,000 secure? Yeah. That's the question.
No, it's not secure.
It's not secure.
In terms of collateral, it's not secure.
Exactly. Yep. And then the question is, these 6 individuals who took the 30 million, Governor, they didn't give any collateral. So the question is, why were they given the loans? And now I'm going back to Senator Tobuka's question, and I don't want you to avoid it. Tobuka is asking, why were they given the 30 million without the collateral? So it's either you answer that, or you tell your administrator to tell us why did they give that money. Because it requires, it's a procedural question. That's what they're saying here. You must be able to give the loan when you have got all the forms signed, all securities secured, okay, and all approval minutes given. You have given that there were approval minutes, there were forms signed, and all that. But why was this loan given without the securities? You can take us a case-to-case basis on the case of Irina War, Jane Wachwenge, Emmanuel Wafula, or you can tell us if it's a whole case of all of them. Why were they given the loans without the securities? Because the loans is not secure. The 30 million is not secure. It could, the Transvaal County Executive Car Loan and Mortgage might actually lose this fund.
And there was an agreement between the county government and the bank. Just turn to page 14, whereby we had a loan protection application form. And if you go down on the same form, it's reading that I do hereby sign and authorize the insurance company to pay benefits under the policy in the event of a claim to SBM Bank. So this was there was an agreement whereby the bank said to take an insurance policy for the loanees. But at the same time, the CC Finance has written to the members to surrender their logbooks and the title of the same. That's on page 32.
When were the loans issued?
Some time back. Pick for the case of Jane Masika. She took a loan somewhere 2023 as per the loan protection.
I want you when I ask when, you just give me the date, not a year. 2023 is such a long year. Was it January? Was it February? Was it May?
It was May 15, 2023.
And then take us back to the loan that you are referring to from the bank.
This is the loan protection application form was that, as I said, was agreement between the bank and the county government and the fund officials.
Mr. Chairman, maybe let me come in. Before Governor, you were fund administrator. Have you read this form end to end?
Yeah.
Completely, like end to end, from page 1 to the last page.
I've gone through it, and that was the agreement between the officials and the bank.
What's the agreement before the officials and the bank? Is it the same form? Is it the same form on collateral? Is there a clause on collateral?
This was just like a collateral, whereby it was in exchange of.
There's a clause on collateral. Are you seeing it somewhere?
Yes.
The next page. It appears after what you've read, declaration of the applicant, what you've read to us, there's another page that has clause 4, 5, 6, up to 7, isn't it? I will refer you to page 16 of your bundles, or rather your annexures. Page 16. Are you there with me?
Yes, I'm there.
On the top of it, there's a clause 6. You've seen it? At the top, Kabisa.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Can you read it out for the committee?
Collateral, that is, the security for this facility shall be jointly managed by Trans Nzoia County and the borrower.
Is that happening insofar as these loans are concerned? This is your own form. It is not ours. It is not Natembeya's form. Is that happening within the fund? Because I foresee you being where I am currently, on behalf of my clients. And I hate to discuss my personal legal matters, but it's an experience I probably have to share with you. But anyway, Chair, not to belabor much on this point, it is clear the loans are not secure, and there's a competent county attorney to whom I have much respect for. He can regularize this by quickly just charging these properties, either a logbook or the house they've built on. So it's as simple as that. That's what we want you to do. Okay?
Maybe while on that, this letter of yours dated 7th January 2025 clearly states that the document should be received on or before 31st March 2025. So you should be telling us, because these people are working with you, by March, how many had applied with this? Because your letter was very clear on the date.
Honorable Chair.
Governor, please respond to those.
Mr. Chairman,
the true position is this, that these loans are not secured. That is the true position. And the reason is that the officers who are responsible acted carelessly. And I said I had fired 4 officers. One of them has signed one of those forms. He was responsible for finance because of gross incompetence. Number 2, the bank also acted carelessly. It's a matter of routine for a bank to look for collateral. That's not how they lend. That's how they lend even for their own monies. But this is a bank that used our own money, that is 111 million, as security for their own loans. So in other words, our money is there, but they seem to be lending us their money. We are giving them 3% of our funds to ensure that they run this fund professionally. So actually, when this matter came to my attention, I've taken mortgages before, and actually surrender that title. It will be discharged the moment you pay. I've taken civil servants loan, and I know it's that when I was told that nobody has actually deposited in logbook or a title deed, I was shocked. But the bank was operating from a comfortable position that they already have our money that they're using as it. They lose nothing. Even this idea of insurance, when you ask them, which is the insurance company for this loan, and how much are we paying as premium, as loanees? There is nothing. So we are trying to regularize that. That officer is gone. Now we are going to have a very serious sitting with the bank and ask very, very difficult questions. And they cannot really pass the back to us because they were supposed to do this professionally. That's why we appointed a bank to disburse these funds. But in the meantime, we have also written to all beneficiaries of this facility to provide collateral by the end of this month, 31st. Yeah, from next month, if they have not provided, they'll start getting silver salaries, and we are going even to cite them for pecuniary embarrassment, because they're also not supposed to be done.
So, Governor, what is the repayment ratio?
Currently?
Yes.
But the repayment is being done well because it really is through check-off system.
Okay.
So at the end of every month, we deduct the money.
So they are still employees?
All of them. All of them are employees, of course, other than those 4 that we've sacked. Yeah? And some of them have taken.
Some of them are also the loanees here?
Yeah, also loanees.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
one good thing that some of them are still, of course, some of them are seconded. They just came as CECs, they've gone back to their respective jobs.
But how will you secure those?
Huh? That gratuity, if it doesn't match that, we'll see how we're going to get the difference. But of course, before we pay them gratuity, we'll recover. But Mr. Chairman, a serious omission was done. That one we must.
So are you still working with the same bank? Or have you reprimanded the bank?
That's what I'm saying now. We are having a very serious conversation with them. Actually, some of the beneficiaries are being charged more than the 3%. They're not just aware. When you check, they're being charged more than 10%. They're not just aware, but actually we are dealing with the bank, which basically I think is just unscrupulous.
I think for the purpose of making progress, let's say, can these loans be secured in the next 30 days? And then you provide the auditors with the same?
Yeah, we are striving for that.
Yeah, and then in terms of just your executive role as a governor, then see how you can be able to either read a route up to the same bank or look for another service provider. Because you cannot put the county resources at risk with the same bank that already holds over 100 million of your cash.
111 million.
Yeah.
That's well.
Chair, if we are to go through the standard securitization process, we would rather give them 60 days. 30 days might be not too comfortable for them. They'll be back here and telling us they didn't do anything.
No, I don't think so. My
Chair, we are the ones on practice, we know. 60 days here. Charging takes quite some time. The one will tell you that.
That one I get, but I'm talking about getting these securities on file. That should not go to 60 days.
Sure, you know, having a security on file is not security. You must charge it. So we can't give the direction that is, lopsided. So I'd rather, with a lot of humility, Chair.
That's fair enough. Let's do 60 days because I think we are saying the same thing. We need them secured. So we'll give you 60 days and then make sure that you get back to the auditor within the 60 days. Auditor, are you comfortable with this, or you have got any other comment?
Maybe, Chairman, just to add on to that, we'd also need to see the agreement between the county and the bank for our perusal, Chair.
Yes, yes, that's it is in order. So take that as a recommendation of the committee, that you provide the auditor with the agreement between the county government and the bank in question. Senator Tobiko?
Yeah, Chair, well, maybe not not necessarily on this one, but I just wanted it to go on record that using this experience, we need to check all the other loan schemes from other counties on what is happening, because this could be a tip of the iceberg.
Fair enough. Clerk, take note of that, so that it is something that you will align with the substantive. Perhaps, auditor, go to the report on lawfulness and effectiveness in the use of public resources and read query number 1, just so that we see the harmony, especially in terms of figures there, because there are different figures. Query number 1, under report on lawfulness and effectiveness in the use of public resources, the unsecured loans. I want to establish whether it's the same bank that you're working with. Yes. Yes, yes. Current mortgage, the first query under report on lawfulness. No. Report on lawfulness and effectiveness in the use of public resources. That will be page 3 of our own documents. Are you all together? Just read that. Do you want to help the governor to be on the same page? Page 39. Yeah, so that we tie it up together, just that we don't spend a lot of time on it. So just go ahead and read that.
Thank you, Chair. Unsecured loans. The statement of financial position for the fund as at 30th June 2024 shows receivables from exchange transactions amount of Kenya shillings 44,879,260. However, a review of the loan records revealed that the loans were not secured in any form, contrary to Regulation 16(1) of the Trans-Nzoia County Executive Car Loan and Scheme Fund Regulations 2018, which requires that the county government shall have a charge registered on the property financed through a loan granted under these regulations and shall be entitled to have its name entered in all documents of title for such property. In the circumstances, management was in breach of the law. Thank you, Chair.
Before we talk about the breach of law, Auditor, can you confirm to us which amounts constitute this 44 million? Is it by part the 30 million and additional 14 million on top that you could express to us, or is it a completely different amount? If you look at your financial notes.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Indeed, the 30 million was disbursements during the year, while 44 million is a balance sheet total that was outstanding at the end of the financial year. So yes, the 30 is part of the 40.
So where is the 14 million coming from?
It's the scheme has been running, so it's yeah, like the previous year, the balance was actually 58 million. So it's a running balance. It's in accounting terms, it's a running balance sheet item.
No, what I'm asking from a financial term is the denotation of the 14 million. Is it interest? Is it a substantive loan to a particular individual or a particular function? How do you account for the 14 million? If we were to assume that the 30 million that we explored in the previous query is part of this
44 million.
Yes, actually, okay, sorry, you don't have the notes, but on the financials, note 7B actually shows the previous balance of 58 million, the loans issued during the year, 30 million, that's a total of 89 million, then recoveries of 44 million, and balance of 44 million. So yeah, there were recoveries of 44 million during the year.
Governor, your response? That query. There is a written response to that query. I'll harmonize, don't worry, I'll harmonize between you and the auditor. That one you can be sure that the senators here are very good at finance. They will harmonize.
Mr. Chairman, I thought I had already given my admission on the fact that the loans unsecured, because this rest for you does not suffice. But I can go ahead and read it.
I'll just read it for the record.
Yeah.
There is something I'm trying to get to.
Yeah. Management response. Under the existing arrangement, where the fund is managed by SBM Bank, there exists a loan protection fund or insurance for the loans issued to beneficiaries. As such, management may request for the surrender of securities in circumstances where the fund is managed by the board.
So, senators, just one comment each.
Governor, I have a problem with your response. Maybe I know it was prepared by the fund manager. As such, management may. What does it mean? May. So it's not a must. It
shall.
It should be shall. And then the letter that they have attached for you, it is the same letter. They were supposed to have done this by 31st March. Nothing has happened.
Chairman, you've already guided, you gave us 60 days to sort out this issue.
So let's say for that unsecured loans, we have 60 days. Let's sort out all those issues in 60 days, get back to the auditors.
Yes.
What about the defaulted loans, Governor? The defaulted loans, repayments. These are the secured ones. Perhaps just read that query. I think it's a short one. Query number 2 under the same lawfulness and effectiveness.
Thank you, Chair. Defaulted loan repayments. Review of the records revealed that loan disbursements amounting to Kenya shillings 10,652,082 related to former members of staff of the county government, which were not being recovered for a period of more than 1 year, and this was contrary to Regulation 18 of the Trans Nzoia County Executive Car Loan and Scheme Fund Regulations 2018, which requires that the committee may call in a loan and in default sell the motor vehicle or charged property by public auction where the borrower is in breach of the terms under the agreement or covenant contained in the charge of the mortgage instrument. In the circumstances, management was in breach of the law. Thank you, Chair.
Governor, response, management response. Mr. Chairman, the county government confirms that the loan beneficiaries did not complete payment on time. This was during the previous administration. Efforts of recovery were done from the gratuity, while the deficit was paid through bank deposits as per attached. Appendix 7A, loan recovery schedule, and then number B, extract of bank statements. Mr. Chairman, the only outstanding loan now is from Morris Lokwaliwa, who was at that time a CEC. He resigned in a half. He still owes, as he has only paid 500,000, there's a balance of 700,000. The rest have repaid their loans, including the former governor.
Okay. Auditor, that response?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, from the bank statement, we can see the payments. Some have happened during the current year. I think there's one for May this year. And I think it brings back to the same issue of that staff can default and the loans need to be secured so that we don't have to go through this recovery process. Thank you, Chair.
I'm not sure that members want to say anything, but I think I'm just reading the issue of security. And I want to seriously, Governor, ask the administrator of this fund to take those issues of procedural matters very seriously. Because you give a small mwanya in Kiswahili, or that small void, then you have a whole big problem with the entire loan management. Because the profile keeps on expanding into interests and other defaults that might then come, that then become very difficult to secure.
Yeah. I really don't know whether the administrator gets the seriousness of this thing.
Yes.
You know, putting public funds at risk, I think it can put you in a very awkward situation finally, as a person, you know, because definitely public funds must be accounted for, and there must be a way. So take this seriously, because you don't seem to see the seriousness of this.
Yeah, my presumption was that I was taking the governor's word that he tried to fire a few people who are mismanaging these funds. And that's why I was putting the responsibility on the governor to probably restructure the entire staffing of this fund. This is a risk fund. It's a very risky fund if it's poorly managed, because loans couple a lot of resources. You know, you talk about 6 people, 30 million. Before you realize another 10 people, you're talking 100+ million. So the governor must take keen interest on this, and if there is a possibility to restructure the entire architecture of leadership there or staffing there, then do so. That is to the best of your ability, if you can able to assess the capability of the people who are managing this fund. Because there's a very thin balance between the fund being managed administratively and then the disbursement point becomes the bank. If you cannot reconcile the two, you'll be in a lot of problems with this fund.
But Chair, is
Yes.
firing the solution? Will that secure the public funds? Will we get the public funds back? That's, I think, the bottom line is to be able to secure these funds.
Mr. Chairman.
Even what has already, even what is already at risk.
Yes, Governor.
We are discussing the risk. We've not lost the funds yet. So the issue of recovering lost funds does not arise. Yeah. But as I'm saying, in the next 60 days, we are going to get collateral for these loans, to ensure that even if an officer is fired or something happens to them, we can still be able to recover our money through collateral. It was a serious omission, that one I've really admitted. Because like we're giving unsecured loans to officers. But the bank of course operates from a point of safety because they don't have our money. That money for the fund. So really the fund is secured. But for us, people who develop this fund, we must secure funds. And that's why we are promising that within the next 60 days, we're going to ensure that all these funds are fully covered.
Sure. Yeah, I don't want us to belabor much, but
But within what timelines do we consider public funds now, from the time they've been taken, and the time we can consider they're lost?
Okay.
What's the time span?
The repayment period is known. I think it was tied to the contracts, which is actually within the tenure of the governor. Yeah, apart from the other, of course, the public officials that benefit, and then we can have a different arrangement for them. But for people who are appointed by the governor, the CECs, their tenure is tied to the governor, so their loan repayment must be within.
I wanted to make a general comment on this whole issue, Chair. You know, it's because this is the first time we're interacting this kind of funds in the counties. And Chair, I'm not jumping over the gun, but I can tell you the situation will be worse when other counties come before us. Because I have had personal interaction with a number of counties over this, especially the mortgage and car loan funds. And the reason why, and I don't blame the governor, or I wouldn't blame the fund manager, attract serious talents to come work for you. Somebody who quits his job as a KRA officer or a KRA regional manager to come and work for you as a chief officer in Kitale, he needs to have a sweetheart deal. And this is part of the sweetheart deal that counties have always coined for these kind of staffers. So you have access to, first of all, these monies are county monies, taken to the bank for administration, and you have quick access to that money. So then you end up having a chance and a condition to relax the requirements so that that particular staff can actually access this loan quickly. So that's why you would see there are no loan application forms. They just say there will be minutes at a committee, the committee's up. So Chair, this should not really worry us. This is something we really expect on a much more bigger scale, and advise the committee. We just give a direction that they go and rectify. But this is very normal, by the way. I don't blame the governor.
Senator, order. It is not normal. Don't normalize it. I agree with everything what you say, but it's not normal, because even as members of parliament, we get loans in this parliament. The issue that has been raised here is substantial issue, procedure. And Governor, I want to take note of this, because it might, that is the most critical issue, is the issue of procedure of how these loans are given out. And those procedure, the people you have put in charge of this fund are not figuring them out. They are well spelled in your own laws. There is a county law that defines, there is an act of the county assembly of Tanzania that stipulates how this how this mortgage loan, current loan mortgage should be able to be disbursed. What the concern is, your administrators are not following that. So when we are leaving this committee today, there are two issues. One is the issue that all senators have raised here, which is secure the loans that are not secured. That one is very clear. But what Senator Tobiko is saying cannot be understated is that after securing them, what happens? What happens is that going forward, the fund must be administered properly. And that administration is what is in question, because that's what has gotten us following the put making sure that your officers are either up to the task or attracts a lot of resources. You alone have indicated that you know, in the bank alone, that's what Senator Tobiko is stressing on, and I don't want to understate it. That the securing is fine. Bursary fund for the year ended 30th June 2024, I mean. Now, Governor, this was the report that had the highest number of inaccuracies. The highest number of accounting issues that we talked about. We cannot, and perhaps we'll give feedback based on what we had given. I won't go into those details, and I think that the Senate has decided also that we won't go into the accounting details. Whatever bad ivy position we had is what will surface in this. But if you look at both page 1 of our notes and all the way, those were the biggest problems, the accounting issues, accounting errors, inaccuracies in the statement of comparison of budget and actuals,
I mean, this is something that you must look at, Governor, very seriously. But for the purposes of this meeting, I think let us look at just 2 queries so that we can be able to conclude. One I just want your comment on, and then we'll give you a written response, and then one we can delve on. So let's look at failure to prepare operational budget. May you read that query? And again, it's under report on lawfulness and effectiveness in the use of resources. Failure to prepare operational budget. Auditor? The query.
Thank you, Chair. Failure to prepare operational budget. The statement of comparison of budget and actual amounts reflects final income budget amount of Kenya shillings 125 million, which was not supported with an approved operational budget. This was contrary to Section 14, subsection 1 of the Trans Nzoia Elimu Bursary Fund Account Act 2014, which requires that at least 3 months before the commencement of each financial year, the board shall cause to be prepared estimates of the revenue and expenditure of the fund for that year, and the board shall lay the proposed estimates before the executive committee member for education for review and approval. In the circumstances, management was in breach of the law. Thank you, Chair.
Governor, your response?
And we have just a one-line response there. That the approved and Bursary Fund operation budget is available for audit review.
Is now available?
Yes.
Is now available?
That's the import of the response.
Auditor?
Thank you, Chair. I think we noted that. We also saw the attachment. However, we note that there's no evidence of approval of the estimates by the CEC responsible. However, in normal circumstances, they should have come while we were in the field. While the audit was ongoing, it should not even have found its place in this report. Thank you, Chair.
So are you suggesting that this can only be confirmed in the next audit cycle? This is one of those issues, right?
There is one of those that will be lost because if a signature appears maybe on the original document, then we might say it was available, or it's available. It's now available, as the governor has said. But in future, probably let's have the budgets and all the accompanying.
Yeah. In other words, and I want to say as perhaps comment on this one or two, but in other words, these are case of late submission of documents, which then certificate has been raised, Governor. You cannot re-audit. You cannot reopen the certificate. It has been closed. There was no submission of this document at the time that it was needed. So we take it in our recommendation. I think that senators can comment on this, but we'll comment on this a number and a number. We'll take in our recommendation that we want to be lenient on less submission of documents. Section 62 of the Public Audit Act will apply, especially for this fund next time those documents are not given. Senators, is that okay to go with? Okay.
So, Chairman, just to add, you know, some of these things, you know, we come here to respond to them. But ordinarily, how would the governor know that this is about operation budget?
I think
in the course of my work as a governor, especially with the strategic direction of a county government, how would I ordinarily know that the Bursary Fund does not have an operation budget?
There are two things. Number one, I would help you. The CEC responsible, and that's why I'm telling you that don't worry, we'll do the work for you. We just hold your officers accountable. Because if you read section 149 that I was referring you to, their JD is there basically, what they're supposed to do. Of course, I'm not trying to excuse you, because as an executive under 179, you must take keen interest in the running of this stuff. In fact, ordinarily, there are almost 7 meetings by the auditor that at least in one of them, you should have a bird's eye position on what the audit queries are going to be. And I would believe that the auditors perhaps invite the executive and the relevant officers. So then you will be able to pick. But the CECs have got serious responsibility in terms of being able to keep you posted on what is going on. So if they're not doing their work, that question, ask them after this when you're with them, perhaps in your cabinet, and then call them to order. Senator Kisang.
What I wanted, what the governor said, I want to find out, you know, as the CEO of the county, I believe you have regular cabinet meetings. And in your cabinet, I believe also your CECs and chief officers, they have performance targets. They sign performance with you. I believe the CEC sign with you, and then maybe CECs sign with the chief officers going down. And one of the things they have to sign is including these funds. You know, basically, so that, you know, the law says, your own law says, basically 3 months before the end of the financial year, they should have prepared a budget. So those are the things that, you know, when you're meeting them, have you done this? Have you done this? And then when you are doing appraisals, when they're being appraised, have they done it? So basically, it is them who are letting you down. Chair, as also my final comments was what I picked the 2 things there: late submission of documents and then non-signing. You can even imagine the governor, the CEC in charge of education, should have signed the budget. The budgets have been provided to the auditors, but it's unsigned. So who is the owner of that particular budget? And then finally, Chair, as my final comment is, I wanted to say, so maybe also for the executive, especially the governors, if you sign a 2.5 year or 2 years contract with your CECs and also maybe chief officers, because this is an executive car loan and scheme mortgage, when you give them a loan, you also give them so that the repayment period is within the contract time. Because for us, we have a 5-year, it's less than 5-year contract with the Parliamentary Service Commission. They ensure by end of June, again it's end of June 20, before August of the election year, the loan should have been fully paid. So even for you, if you give them 2 years or 2.5 year contract, you give them a loan that is equivalent within that, the months within that particular period. If it is renewed, then they can get additional loan, so that, you know, the default rate is reduced.
Thank you. Thank you. I think from what Senator Kisang has said, our expectation will be also that you try your appraisals to the audit reports, because in fact it's the best performance indicator to draw your KPIs with your teams. Because if you don't write to the audit report that you're seeing here, then you know, in some organizations that have got good budget, there is even internal audit processes that then inform external auditors' processes, so that you're not caught into these kind of purely accounting messes. Because this is one of those accounting messes where people just don't show up with the document that they are supposed to do, and then they don't do their work, and it makes you actually look very bad as an executive. So those feedback, I think you can take them. Perhaps, I know Senator Chimera wants to say something, but do you mind holding it a little bit so that you just read the query on board and then you tie it up? I'll give you the first priority. The query on board.
Yeah, maybe before you proceed. Maybe just off the cuff.
Yes. Go ahead, Governor.
You know, so some of these things appear as if now the government is supposed to go and do very, you know. And if we have got 2 levels of government, and like, how can the president know what some officer in a given department, like the Department of Education, is doing? Because these 2 levels of government are all structured in a similar manner. We've got ministers, we've got CECs, we've got PSs, we've got chief officers. Yeah. But every time a governor comes here, of course, we are moving responsibility from the concerned officers. Some can go and do their own things, knowing that at the end of the day, it's the governor coming to sit here. And many of these things, by the way, unless the auditor flags them out, like if we didn't flag out this issue of lack of a budget, I wouldn't know. Ordinarily, I wouldn't know. So, devolution is work in progress.
I don't mean to stop you, because you are live on camera. I want to caution you not to take that path. Because, you know, in our constitution, only county governments are given a corporate entity identity. They are corporate bodies. In fact, governors are the only people referred to as chief executive officers under 179. So because of that, it behooves you as the governor to actually be well conversant with everything that's happening in the county. In fact, details to who was the sweeper today in the streets, if you're running in the compound of where you are. Because that's what a CEO does. But what I was telling you, the recourse for you, which I was inviting you to go and read, and then call the Riot Act to your teams, is Section 149 of the PFM Act. If you read 149, Section 149(2), it says an accounting officer is mandated to submit estimates on an entity to the county executive committee member, which is the CEC I was talking about, responsible for that entity, who then, after approving it, shall forward it to the CEC and finance. So the law has given you management of that entire accounting officers for you. That's the constitution and the laws. Is the accounting officers are the people you must put in check. But I don't want to belabor, because you and the president, you have got a tougher job as a CEO. The president is not a CEO. The president can have this excuse for mischief, but you cannot have the excuse for mischief, unfortunately, by law. But that said,
as custodians and protectors of devolution, I think it's good for us to give you feedback.
Yes.
Because every time we raise this issue, as we have said, you are CEOs, and
yes,
you must come here.
Yes.
But I think the Senate is the custodian, the protector of devolution. Sometime maybe in your free time you can look at how we can improve some of these things. I think I'm just giving, that's why it's off the cuff.
Yeah,
it's just feedback.
That's true. I take that seriously. But you're the CEO still. We can't change the constitution unless maybe. So the last thing, Senators, you're going to come in. The last thing we're going to consider today for maybe perhaps 5 or 6 minutes is the ineffectiveness of the board. Just read that query, and then I'll give Senator Chimera and Senator Mbungo perhaps to comment on those, and then the governor.
Thank you, Chair. Ineffectiveness of the board. Examination of board minutes indicated that the management had only met once on 24th February 2024. This was contrary to Section 9, subsection 1 of the Trans Nzoia Elimu Bursary Fund Account Act 2014, which provides that the board shall meet not less than 6 and not more than 20 times in a financial year, and not more than 2 months shall elapse between the date of one meeting and the date of the next meeting. In the circumstances, the effectiveness of the board in the management of the fund could not be confirmed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Governor.
Mr. Chairman, let me read the response as it is. The management acknowledges the oversight and omissions and has taken administrative action. The requirement to have 6 bursary board meetings, however, the Elimu Bursary Fund Act only allows a maximum of 0.5% and 2.5% for board allowances, and the ward bursary committees allowance respectively, inclusive of the 25 ward bursary committee members and the 7 bursary board members. The budget is therefore insufficient to facilitate the stipulated number of meetings.
Auditor?
Thank you, Chair. I think on admission is that there's an oversight and some omission, because as you know, the bursary is a process. A student is in this class, moved to the next form and all that. So there needs to be monitoring of the same. So, and I know there is a national debate on bursaries, but on this one we note about the shortfall in the budgets, but it can be probably enhanced to ensure that there is proper oversight on the bursaries that are being issued by the county government. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Senators, Senator Chimera. Chair, I wanted to pick the governor's mind on this whole issue of bursaries. I understand there was a circular from the COB that basically outlawed the issuance of bursaries by county governments. How is the county government of Trans Nzoia treating that particular circular? There's actually a court case on the same. I don't know whether is it a commission you have on COG? Have you joined the court case? Are you still issuing bursaries or not? Otherwise, this gentleman might not have a job this time round to do in terms of auditing this particular fund. Thank you, Chair.
Senator Mbugua, 1 minute.
No, Chair, allow mine to pass because of time.
I was giving you 1 minute, but it's okay. Senator Tobiko? Governor, your response to Senator Chimera?
Mr. Chairman, the control of budget is of the firm view that bursaries to second schools, tertiary schools and universities is a national government function, and she actually did a circular to that effect to all county governments. We had a meeting, DIBEC meeting, where all these parties attended under the chairmanship of the deputy president, and it was agreed that she rescinds the circular. It was basically under duress. She was not very comfortable. And she did that. She did a letter withdrawing the circular. But somebody else picked that circular and went to court and said she issued a correct circular, and therefore she has got no mandate to withdraw it. And the court agreed with her. Actually, we were only allowed to issue bursaries for this financial that has lapsed. Going forward, we are supposed to have IPS, intergovernmental position agreements. But again, the matter is still in court. Some of us are fearing that actually the final verdict will be that counties just keep away from issuance of bursaries. The biggest issue now is as we exit the issuance of bursaries, who is going to fill that hole? The assumption by the national government is that for me, if I've been giving out 1.5 million shillings in bursaries, I'll surrender that money to the national government. It's not going to happen. I'll just put that money to a different function in the county. So that loophole will still with me. In Trans Nzoia, we don't even look at this as a bursary. We use the word bursary, but basically it's just some kind of social intervention. Because basically what we are doing is we are paying food, because the government gives capitation of 22,000, but in that capitation there's no provision for lunch. So we come in and pay that at 10,000 per child. People may choose to call it bursary, but in the absence of that, even the 22,000 capitation will go to waste because this child will be sent home because they have not paid 5,000 shillings. So for me, instead of us fighting over these tough wars, we're supposed to be doing what? This was a very, very important thing to be politicized. And if the national government insists that we do not participate in the issues of bursaries, we just budget this money for other things. But the consequence would be that many, many deserving children, very deserving, bright children from poor families will not have basic education.
I hear you, Governor.
Chair, this is the only governor who has no qualms with letting bursaries go. The rest would say, it is our money, we must have bursaries for politics, of course. Thank you, Governor.
It seems that Chimera is gearing to be governor of Kwale, which would be a good, it's a good place for the Senate. But Governor, I think that is a complex. For me, I never look at things from black and white. You know, the answer is always somewhere in the middle, because the complexity of these issues are tough. On one hand, it is true that the counties are underfunded.
In fact, we argue in finance and budget where I see it that the counties are defunded by these aspects because you already get very small amount of money, which we struggle to fight for here. Senators have fought so much so that the budget that's given to counties go higher. Now we're at 415 billion. Hopefully it stays at that. But there are functions that are cross-sectional to the extent that counties have to foot the bill, national government have to foot the bill. So for instance, water issues. You will find that the national government is using your water, right, in some areas, and then they don't want to pay. That's defunding you. And then on the other hand, you consume a national government service, something like electricity, and then you're forced to pay. That's defunding you. So the reason why senators are in congruence sometimes with the voices that say you should not be able to finance non-county functions is because it constricts that fiscal space for the counties to do other things. The ECDs are just struggling as much as funding the higher education is concerned. So that is valid. But on the other hand, you go to some counties, you empathize, right? So we visited Mandera the other day as senators. We went there to visit the county of Mandera and just see how devolution is performing there. And you find that before 2013, there was no any semblance of national government or any form of police service. There was no education services. So when you're a county of Mandera and you find a governor, you find yourself as a governor of Mandera with an issue of Al-Shabaab on one hand, and there's no policing system, and they have to put 300 police reserve officers, national police reserve officers, in their payroll.